3, mic check. It's on live. Signing day show. It's National Signing Day 2021, the latest stop on the road to the fall campaign. A perfect day in Miami to welcome in the newest crop of FIU Panthers. We're inside the Landon Fieldhouse, the football facility. We're welcoming the newest crop of FIU Panthers here to campus today. We've signed their NLIs. Welcome in to FIU Panther Talk, our National Signing Day show with head coach Butch Davis. I'm AJ Ricketts. This show brought to you by Cafe Bustelo. Coach, always great to be with you. We get to do this twice a year, talking about the newest Panthers, newest recruits to come to town. Congratulations on another good class. I want to ask you, since we did this in February, it's been about 2 months now, what have you and the staff, what did you really try to focus on and emphasize as you made your way here to the February signing?
Well, AJ, first of all, I want to say, you know, February the 3rd is an unbelievable, it is a special, special day. Because today is my wife's birthday.
That's a huge day.
Okay, it's a great day. And we've been married for almost 35 years. And can I tell you how many February 3rds have been National Signing Days? And everybody always asks me, oh, they beg. They say, well, what'd you get your wife for her birthday this year? A quarterback, 2 offensive linemen, a couple of wide receivers, a D-line, a linebacker, some tight ends and stuff. And so she unwrapped all of those, and today was a special day for FIU.
It's exactly what she asked for.
Exactly. That's exactly. You know, and in the December signing day, that was her Christmas present, was that she got those 14 signees back in those days. But obviously, AJ, in all honesty, you know, college football recruiting has changed dramatically over the last couple of decades, and in the last couple of years with the early signing day in December is awesome, because it really gives you an opportunity to sign guys that you know these guys are committed, they're going to be a part of the program. And then we had the show back in December and signed those players. There were 2 players that we couldn't talk about at that time who actually did sign. We knew they were coming, but they had to attend classes in January. So that grew that group of people from the 14 high school players to 2 more players, a junior college and a grad transfer. The other part of it, AJ, that really is critical, and we're going to talk about some high school players that we signed that we are thrilled to death to have them as part of this program. But the other part of the new recruiting, it's almost they've turned college football into the National Football League. It's like the free agency. It's like you get the draft, you sign your players in the draft, and then now you go and you find out how much money do you have if you're an NFL team in the pool of money, and you go sign free agents. Well, that's kind of what is happening, and we're really optimistic about the fact that we think that we've got maybe 4 or 5 players that we know are going to get, but they won't be here until maybe the end of May or the 1st of June for summer session A. So we can talk about today about all different phases of recruiting and everything. So let's get going.
Yeah, it's certainly a much more extensive, long-winded process than before. The recruiting process has evolved, and we're going to talk about a player today, you know, and it's a similar situation to what will happen this morning. The early signing day period, Jay Berry signed after the show was over.
Exactly.
He signed on early signing day, but compliance, NCAA rule, we couldn't name him until that NLI was in. It's similar stuff, similar situation with some players today, and it's the same thing, of course, as Butch mentioned, with transfer players. can't reference them until they're and them going to class is the technical NLI for transfers.
Exactly.
So we're only going to go over a couple of players today, but here's the thing though. Here's the thing. If you want to know who those players are, there's a thing called Twitter.
Exactly.
you can log on. You log on the social medias and be very aware of who may be heading our way soon. You can follow Eric Henry for that. Eric, you owe me a beer for that plug. Okay. All right. Let's get into the signees here. The guys that do have their NLIs in. Going to start under center, the quarterback spot. Really excited about this player out of Texas, Grayson James, out of Duncanville High School. He transferred there from John Paul II, where he led them to a state runner-up finish. When he was there, he was coached by actually former Dallas Cowboy George Teague. After your time there, he was there from '96 in the late '90s. He's a top 40 recruit among pro-style quarterbacks by 24/7 Sports, and really excited to see what did you see out of him on film?
Yeah, well, the things obviously, AJ, that you fall in love with him. First of all, he's a winner. I mean, he was at John Paul and he had a great season there. Then he went to Duncanville and they went to the quarterfinals in 6A football in Texas. They got beat by South Lake Carroll, which is one of the top programs in all of high school football in America. But he's athletic, okay, and he can throw. I mean, this is a kid that he threw for 40 touchdowns as a junior, and he threw for about 35 this past year. He's got a good arm. He's really smart. He's a bright young man. His academics are outstanding, and he's been in a winning program where he's used to being a leader. He's used to being, somebody that everybody can rely on the fact that he's going to give a great performance in game days. And the other thing that I really love about it, and you've heard me say this, and people that have ever followed my career, he's a multi-sport player. I love the fact, think about this, he ran track. So I called him yesterday morning. I said, well, what are you doing early in the morning? He said, Coach, I just finished my workout running track. So, you love players that are like those kinds of things, and he's going to be a great asset to this football program.
Trent Dilfer did a video for him, of course, Super Bowl winning quarterback with the Ravens, does some work with Elite 11, just had a video on Twitter the other week after Grayson committed and said, look, FIU is getting a hard worker, a great quarterback, and a guy with intangibles. Really high on that. What are those intangibles to you as a head coach you're looking for in a quarterback?
Well, one of the things, AJ, and I've been blessed in all my, whether a high school coach, college coach, NFL, quarterbacks are critically important to the success of any football program, whether it's Pop Warner or whether it's the NFL. When that guy that's the quarterback steps in the huddle, the other 10 guys, they got to believe in him. They got to know that he's a leader. They know that he has spilled his guts to watch film, to practice, to train, to understand how to get us out of a bad play into a good play. And that's why with James, he's got great SAT scores. He's got great academic scores, so you know that. But you also know that his intangibles, his work ethic. Our players in this program, after we lost Alex Magoo, who was a great player, and James Morgan came in here, I mean, he watched film. He did everything. And so all the players in the program, they watch how hard he works, and he becomes a leader, and they have a lot of respect for him. And so that's something that obviously, we feel very comfortable with Grayson.
Yeah, James Morgan lived here. Where we're at right now, he lived in this facility.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still weird to walk around here and James isn't watching film.
And there's a reason that he was a 4th-round draft choice by the New York Jets. I mean, and he led us to 2 bowl games and did a great job. So Grayson is a great addition. I mean, one of the things that you have to do is you got to keep bringing quarterbacks into the program, okay? And you just keep growing them, you keep bringing them in, and you see them grow and develop. And I'm optimistic about the players that are currently right here. And I love, and this is one of the things, AJ, that I just like about any player. I love kids that don't worry about competition. They want to come in, whoever's here, I want to compete against them, and they're going to make me a better player.
Yeah, and that reminds, Nick Saban had a recruiting pitch leaked the other day, but it was very flattering, saying, look, all my players, they want that competition. They don't run away from it, and that's pretty cool to see, and you referenced that as well. One guy, one player that Grayson may have the opportunity to throw the ball to, or whoever winds up under center, is Tyrese Chambers, who comes in from FCS Sacred Heart, where he put up huge numbers at that spot. He wasn't heavily recruited out of high school in Baltimore. For whatever the reasons, that area doesn't see a lot of coaches come through. He was one of only 2 receivers named to USA Today's Maryland first-team All-State list. The other one went to Penn State. Chambers went the FCS route, caught 50 passes for 800 yards, 8 touchdowns last year, an FCS All-American, a Jerry Rice Award finalist, and he's certainly been a hard worker at that level. What attracted you to his
you know what,
potential?
I mean, AJ, and obviously when you take a look at the receivers, obviously the way in which they catch the ball, almost every single catch that Tyrese has, he catches with his hands. He has great run after the catch. I mean, you see on the video thing, it's a 10, 12-yard dig, but he takes it 60, 65 yards. You don't get 800 yards and 11 touchdowns like he did last year. And the other thing is that you see a lot of kids in high school that are in a program or maybe a junior college, and they only run a limited amount of routes. And you go, well, I wonder if he could run out routes. I wonder if he could run digs and takeoffs and comebacks and all that stuff. Well, one of the things about Tyrese is that you've seen him in game situations run all the routes that you would love a receiver to be able to run and to come in and into program. And obviously, you know, when you're using 3 wide receivers and 11 personnel or 4 wide receivers and 10 personnel, he's going to have a great chance to come in here. He's here now. He enrolled. He's in the 2nd semester, so he's going through the off-season conditioning program. He'll get a chance to go through spring practice. Yeah. This is an excellent deal. The other aspect of it is that he can be a returner. I mean, I love skilled athletes that can return punts and can return kickoffs, so it gives them more opportunities to help change the outcome of a game.
I remember early signing day, we were reflecting on Artez Hooker and what he could bring to the program. You combine that with players like Bryce Singleton, Shamar Thornton, who've established themselves here.
Sure.
The wideout spot's looking very nice for you right now.
Kid. Well, and you got to have depth. I mean, you really truly do, because you know, in the old days in college football, an offense might run 55 to 65 plays. There's games today that you may run 85 plays. Yeah. So you don't have, there's no wide receiver, and I don't even, you could throw Jerry Rice into this deal, that he could go out and go 100% full speed and run 90 plays in a game. You got to have 5, 6, or 7 receivers that can go in, and the level of the talent doesn't dip. When they go in there, they're all talented enough to give you a chance to win the game.
All right, coming up next along the offensive line, we got J.D. Gomez, who's actually a South Florida native, coming back home and away. Spent a season at ASA College, went up to Temple, and played in 13 games last year for the Owls. He makes his way back down to South Florida. Coach, what do you like about J.D. Gomez? I don't think he was on the Owls roster when we played him in the Gasparilla Bowl, so we don't have to hold that against him.
Exactly.
He's coming back home to South Florida for a year.
Well, first of all, obviously, when you watch a guy that's been a starter at Temple, obviously he's played against really good, talented teams, played against Cincinnati and Houston and all the teams in that conference, and you see how he performs. He's big, he's strong, he's powerful. You know, it used to be, I mean, the athleticism and the size of people in the offensive line have changed dramatically. If you want to have a good, clean pocket for the quarterback to step up and throw the ball, you better have good, powerful offensive guards and centers, because you don't want the pass rush from defensive tackles to come back in the backfield. He's athletic enough. We watched enough tape where you see him pull, he can trap, he can do a lot of different kinds of things. But the thing, you know, you just got to have, because, you know, we're going to probably play somewhere between 7 and 9 offensive linemen in almost every single game. And his versatility of being able to play on the right side, being able to play on the left side, we love the fact, and we love the fact that he's here now and he's going to get a chance to go through spring practice and the off-season conditioning program. It's a great addition to this football team.
Yeah, he joins an offensive line that historically has had great success here, particularly with protecting the quarterback. Remember 2 years ago, first in the nation in sacks allowed. Last year, even with how banged up the line was, the holes they opened up for Devontae Price to have the season that he had. Well, I mean, the line's been terrific.
Yeah, I tell you what, and a lot of people don't realize this, and we're thrilled to death that Devontae Price is coming back.
That's awesome.
No kidding. He's one of our 12 seniors that have decided to come back. But you think about it, he almost rushed for 800 yards. Okay, in 5 games.
5 games.
In 5 games. And obviously that doesn't even include the catches out of the backfield and stuff like that. He was on track, legitimately, he was on track to potentially have somewhere between 1,400 and 1,800 yards. And that's still, you know, sharing some time with Sean Peterson and some of those other guys where he was splitting time. So obviously now how good the offensive line is, you get Lindell Hudson coming back and you get some of those other players, Dante Keys coming back. Now you stick in somebody like JD to go in there. We're building a big, massive, powerful, you know, offensive line to help our quarterbacks and our running backs.
All right, the final recruit we'll go over today, and this is who we referenced earlier. We would have loved to talk about him in December, but, you know, West Coast time or Mountain time, whichever one it is, you know, it was pretty early over there when we were doing our signing day show, so didn't have the NLI in yet. We do now want to spotlight him. One of the top players in the state of Colorado, Jay Berry Jr., who's a two-way player, versatile. I mean, he's listed as a wide receiver coach, but he also picked off a team-high 5 passes in 7 games last year. His father, Jay Berry Sr., played ball at the University of Washington. His grandfather, Odell played for the Denver Broncos. Good lineage and a great player right here.
Yeah, I tell you what, AJ, and obviously I wish we could have talked about him in December because of the time frames and the way it went and everything. But one of the things, again, and you keep hearing me say this all the time, I love players that have a lot of things that they can do. Yeah. Obviously, we talked about his wide receiver. He got 5 interceptions as a defensive back. The very first clip, you see him returning kicks and stuff like that. Every time that a kid can do those kinds of things, it gives them a great chance to help the football team, especially as an incoming freshman. Right. They can earn their scholarship a little bit, maybe playing on special teams, and then as they grow, they learn more about the offense and the schemes. Then they get more playing opportunity on the offensive side of it. He is electric, okay? This is a great guy as far as run after catches, and that's a big, big thing because whether it's a 5-yard hitch that turns into a 25-yard or it's a 10-yard dig or a curl, and now all of a sudden he makes somebody miss, and now all of a sudden, as you see here on the video, now he goes 75, 80 yards. Yeah. That run after catch is a huge, gigantic difference of all the playmakers that you sign.
Product of Fairview High School, played wideout and defensive back there after transferring from East Denver. He's making his way towards FIU here this May. All right, when we come back, some big picture stuff. We'll talk about the offensive staff, talk about where FIU goes from here as spring practices. Training approaches here soon. Back here to this on the FIU National Signing Day show on Facebook.
For 25 years, Conference USA student athletes have done things the only way that we know how, the CUSA way. In that quarter of a century, we've learned a thing or two about winning, both on and off the field. Our student athletes are more than just great athletes. They're fantastic students, and they're outstanding citizens who give back to their communities. We're committed to excellence. We are stronger together. That's the CUSA way.
They cheer, they yell, they scream for the best moves.
And the FIU Panthers are going to show you why they'll dominate the field this season.
But for the best moves off the field, Good Greek Moving and Storage is the team you can rely on. We ensure a stress-free move on time and on budget, locally or nationwide.
And now, Good Greek is the official mover of the FIU Panthers.
Let Good Greek be your official mover too.
Good Greek Moving and Storage, your superhero movers. Okay, yeah. Bésame bendito, como huele rico de cafecito. Bésame bendito. Dale. Boom, boom, a ritmo miro. Giro, listo, sí, no. Ándale pues, ándale pues. Ándale pues, ándale pues.
All right, this recruit more of a recent development out of Miami Palmetto High School. If you've Googled his name in the last month or two, you've probably seen it linked to the University of Florida or the University of Miami. It was actually a long-time commit to UM. But FIU, we got in the game recently. He had an opportunity to talk with the new defensive staff in place, and ultimately one of the highest rated signees in FIU history, I think third by 24/7 Sports. Yeah. Savion Collins, a 4-star prospect, and an awesome signee into this program.
Yeah, well, AJ, obviously it's a great signee for our football program, and obviously we've kind of known about Savion for the last couple of years. As a junior and stuff, you knew how talented and how gifted that he was, and obviously one of the things that kind of slowed us down for getting involved in it was when I made a decision to make a change in the defensive staff. It was very difficult to get into it maybe in December and early part of January when you know that you're going to make some changes, because I wanted him to know exactly who's going to be coaching him, who his defensive line coach is, who's the new defensive coordinator, and the role in which that we feel like that he could make an impact into our program. And so obviously conversations with him over the last couple of weeks have been outstanding. He's a great kid. He's got a very, very good student. His mom and his grandmother, I mean, he's the intangibles as far as what he is outstanding. And so it's a great addition to this football program, because obviously, and you know, and people having been a former defensive line coach, I love getting defensive line. You can't have enough of them, right. And it's good to get him in this program.
Yeah, 6'4", 290, selected to the Under Armour All-American Bowl as well. Butch, when you're recruiting a player of that stature, what's your pitch?
Well, I mean, obviously a little bit of it is how important defensive linemen are to the scheme and to the program. Obviously, I've been blessed. I mean, the coaches, the kids that I've been blessed to be able to coach, it goes back to like the Jerome Browns, and I recruited Leslie O'Neal at Oklahoma State. I've been involved in defensive linemen, coaching them at the Dallas Cowboys and at Miami and stuff. So they understand that. But here's the good thing about it is the new defensive line coach that's coming in here has coached in the SEC at several different schools. He's had 6 first-round draft choices in the defensive line. So he's going, because kids want to know, the position coach, how much can he make me better? Right. You know, because kids are going to come in their high school year and they're going to be talented and they're going to be good, but there's a lot of growth. They got to continue to grow and to get better and find the fundamentals and the things and who can help them. And obviously, I think that had a good role in helping with Savion.
Yeah, he could be a dynamic presence along the defensive line and early. Really excited to have him in the program.
Mental health affects us all, whether you finish first or last.
Whether you win or lose.
The stigma around these issues causes those around us to suffer in silence.
Mental health is nothing to be ashamed of.
You are not alone.
You are not alone. As a student athlete,
as a teammate,
as a friend,
we pledge to continue the conversation.
Because it matters.
Because you matter.
Stand up to the stigma.
Stand up.
Stand up.
Continue the conversation.
You are not alone.
They cheer, they yell, they scream for the best moves.
And the FIU Panthers are going to show you why they'll dominate the field this season.
But for the best moves off the field, Good Greek Moving and Storage is the team you can rely on. We ensure a stress-free move on time and on budget, locally or nationwide.
And now, Good Greek is the official mover of the FIU Panthers.
Let Good Greek be your official mover too.
Good Greek Moving and Storage, your superhero movers.
Miami, always beautiful. National Signing Day. Miami participating in winter today. It was 55 degrees when I walked out the door. Wasn't expecting that. Persevering through the tough temperatures. Everyone watching from the north going through the nor'easter right now rolls their eyes and maybe X's out of the window.
AJ, I love it. I mean, obviously, I came down here with Jimmy Johnson in 1984, and it's almost hilarious, okay, that when the temperature drops down into the low 50s, maybe it gets into the high 40s and stuff, and you go to someplace like Walmart or go to one of the stores, there's no earmuffs, there's no gloves. Everybody thinks it's like they're in Alaska or something. It's like the end of the world. We're going to have about 2 or 3 days of chilly and cold, and then the next thing you know, it's back into the 70s, and it's the best weather on the planet.
Yeah, we're pitching our weather on the signing day show. The recruiting never stops. We have to get that in there. All right, so let's move forward. Let's talk about the offense, some offensive staff moves.
Sure.
Tim Harris Jr., well-deserved. He promoted him to offensive coordinator. Bryn Renner goes to QB's coach, and Drew Davis will be the passing game coordinator now. But just to start off with Tim Harris, who's been here for a number of years, has given a lot to the FIU program, and now he'll be in charge of the offense. Very well deserved for him.
You know, absolutely. I mean, it's a position and a elevation in his career that he has completely earned. I mean, Tim is one of the best coaches, assistant coaches that I've been around in my entire coaching career. And one of the things that obviously shows you how good of a coach he is look at the performance of his players. The entire time that I've been here, the running backs, they have been spectacular. They've played well. Rarely do they ever make mental mistakes. Their effort, their tenacity. We talked a little bit earlier in the show about Devontae Price, but you know, the guys that were previous before him, I mean, those guys have played great, and he has certainly earned that opportunity. It'll be a collective thing, you know, I mean, between him and Bryn and DJ and Drew and Joel putting together the offensive package that's going to fit our players. What's the things that they do that gives us the best chance to win every single game? And they will work well together. And I'm excited for Tim to get this opportunity. You know, thank God we're going to get a chance to go through spring practice, which we didn't get a chance to do last year. So now they can experiment, they can do all the things and see the growth and the development of all of our players on the offense.
When you moved Bryn to quarterbacks coach, that was part of a philosophy that you developed under Jimmy Johnson.
Sure.
You know, moving coaches around, knowing all sides of the football, different positions. But I'm sure it will be nice for him, and he'll enjoy the heck out of being back in the quarterbacks room, because that's what he was at UNC, and he brings a wealth of experience.
Well, AJ, and obviously, and Jimmy was. he was like that.
Yeah.
But I actually learned that from Frank Broyles. If you go back, and it's a long, long, long time ago, he had probably, I don't know, 15 to 20 assistant coaches that went on to become head coaches.
Yeah.
But one of his philosophies at Arkansas was, you coached a particular position for 2 to 3 years. If you didn't get a coordinator's job or you didn't get a head coaching job, Merv Johnson, for an example, was our offensive line coach and was a great one. Then they moved him to the defensive line. And I mean, it was a variety of guys. And some of the great coaches that were there, that went on to be very successful, that was his. And I'm sure that Coach Johnson learned that from Coach Broyles as well when he coached and played there. And in my personal coaching career, I was the wide receiver coach and I was the tight ends coach for Jimmy Johnson for 5 years at Oklahoma State. Right. And then when I came here in 1984, I had played college. I'd played on the defensive side. He moved me to the defensive line. And I've told a lot of people that sometimes when you flip sides of the ball, it really truly helps you grow, because now you've been a part of how the protections are, what gives offenses problems as far as breakdowns. You understand the blocking scheme. So now when you go on the defensive side, and when I became the coordinator for the Cowboys, all the things that I did on the offense really truly helped me an awful lot, try to come up with schemes and those things. So Bryn, played quarterback for me at North Carolina, and when I put him at corner, I said, look, I know you're not probably truly really ready to do this, but I said, think about it this way. When you were a quarterback, how did you look at the secondary, the disguise, how they lined up, their leverages, where they were? I said, it helped you. So now that you coach the secondary, when you go back and you're starting to coach quarterbacks, their growth and their development in pre-snap reads is going to be off the chart.
Absolutely,
and so Brent will do a really good job, because obviously he played in the National Football League, played for the Broncos and the Baltimore Ravens and stuff like that. So that's going to help him help our quarterbacks grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited for both of those guys. And again, Drew as well as the passing game coordinator in terms of the offensive side of the football. Defensive news coming soon, paperwork to fill out, but one of those things like the recruits can't talk about yet. But we will soon. So follow Twitter. Follow us on Twitter for that. Let's talk about the schedule, Butch. It just came out the other day. Can never come out too soon. 2 home games to start, Long Island and Texas State. And then it'll be an intriguing couple of games on the road right after that at Texas Tech for a Power 5 matchup up over in Lubbock, Central Michigan as well, and then FAU. So those 3 games back to back on the road before conference play begin. Well, conference play beginning with FAU. What are your early impressions of the schedule here, and some good challenges and opportunities for this for the group?
Well, there's obviously several things. AJ, I want to go back real quick in just a second about the defensive staff. I am thrilled to death and excited about the defensive staff and the impact that they're going to have. New defensive coordinator, defensive line coach, linebackers, secondary guys. I think that they are going to do a fabulous job in the teaching. We get a great spring practice, which we need. We need the summer, the OTAs, the kids working out, the things that we didn't get last year. Then when you get into the schedule, obviously you would love as a head coach, you like the idea to start the season off with some home games, okay? Get off to a good start. Your kids are prepared. They get a chance. And then when you go on the road, and whether it's Texas Tech or whether it's Central Michigan, they've got a little bit of background, a little bit of experience under their belts that they've been able to play in some games and stuff. And because there's going to be new starters, there'll be some new guys participating in special teams, and they won't have their feet wet with opening the season with a very challenging. Absolutely,
having a heck of a season.
And I'm going to tell you what, our kids, and I'm going to tell you what our kids see about that. I mean, Liberty had a great season, and Hugh did a great job with that team, and he brought in a lot of transfers and stuff like that to build that team for last year. They had a great team. Okay, we were about a minute and a half away from winning a game against a team with 9 starters that didn't play in that game. We were a couple of minutes away from beating the team that finished in the top 20. So our players know it's the work, it's the effort, it's the preparation, it's how much can we accomplish in the next 6 or 7 months before we start this season. Every game after game 1 doesn't really matter. It's all, let's just focus on being as good as we can be on week 1.
I think it'll be huge to be able to start at home, manageable games, and then move forward to that tough 3-game stretch on the road. But to have a home game, because we've had some tough openers in years past. Tulane on the road, Indiana at home, UCF, that was the first game of their long win streak. It's been some tough openers, so maybe an opportunity here at home to get the feet wet.
And AJ, one other thing that I want to say, and I want to say a thank you, okay, to Pete Garcia, the athletic director, and to President Rosenberg. Last year, one of the most difficult things that was a huge, gigantic challenge for the 2020 season was the fact that when the school shut down, we sent everybody home for basically about 5 to 5.5 months where they were home. Well, this year, we pray for the health of the country and for the city and for the campus that we don't shut the campus down. But if we do, our players are going to get to stay this year for the first time. They'll get to stay. We tried to create a bubble by putting our players in a dorm across the street where it was just our football players, floors 2, 3, 4, and have meals here. That way they continue, and we don't lose those 4 or 5 months of running and lifting and conditioning and doing all those kinds of things. And hope we'll get those 15 days of spring practice that will help us continue to grow. Our coaches, our defensive staff will get a great chance to evaluate the skills, the talent, the level of our players, and as we create the defensive scheme that we're going to use, they'll get a chance to implement that and install that throughout the entire spring.
Yeah, that collaboration with the campus and the administration, that's huge for any program that's trying to operate with the best efficiency right now. So to be able to have them here is big.
Yeah, if people that are watching this show and you wonder what did the kids do, I mean, I've got videos of our guys. They had no gym to work out in. They had no place to lift weights, but I had videos of guys running in the sand. I had guys doing vertical jumps into the back of a pickup truck. Yeah. I mean, there was all people
put a mattress in the back.
Yeah, they're trying to create ways to improve, but it definitely is not like being able to go into that strength and conditioning program with Andrew Swayze, who's, in my opinion, is the best in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Coach, before we wrap things up and talk about the rest of spring, I want to put you on the spot here real quick. The big news yesterday on Twitter, college football is going to have a video game in 2 years. It's coming back after 7 or 8 years. Can't wait to play Ricardo Silva with FIU whenever they do get that video game out. And so the discussion, all around social was, who should be on the cover, who would be the best cover athlete. Obviously for FIU, T.Y. Hilton would be the guy. It was the unanimous pick when we posted that. But I want to ask you, for anyone you've coached at FIU, who should be on the cover of that? The college football video game. Who goes on the cover?
I'm going to tell you one guy that doesn't get enough credit, and there's a lot of people we could talk about, Alex McGough and James Morgan, guys that are playing. I'm going to tell you a guy that set the tempo was Anthony Wynn. Okay, the linebacker that played for us in 2017, only played 1 year, okay, but I'm going to tell you, every place I've ever coached, he could have played for us at any school that I ever played.
He was great.
His heart, his passion, the way that he played whether he's nicked up and stuff, the way he led the team in the locker room, on the practice field, he held everybody accountable. And because of the way that he played, I don't know how many, he had 300 tackles or something in his career. It was off the charts and stuff like that. Because of his intangibles, his character, his work ethic, it got him into the New York Jets, and he actually played as a rookie, okay? And, I mean, he would be a guy that you just, as a coach, you just fall in love with guys like that, winning is important, and the way in which he, treated his teammates and the way he pushed guys. And, I mean, I can tell you, we didn't have a lot of talent in 2017, but winning 8 games and going to a bowl game, I'm going to tell you, the things he would say on the sideline, the things he would say out in the huddle when we didn't have depth and we couldn't put people in there. Anthony Wynn, is somebody that I love to death.
That's a great pick, well-deserved, well-earned. I would counter. My pick would be Shane McGough.
Sure.
But not any picture or game action from it. It would be Shane McGough riding the lawnmower at Busch Gardens.
No kidding. There you go.
One of the most dramatic victories in FIU history over Temple. The lawnmower went at Busch Gardens.
And Shane's a lot like Anthony. I mean, he did a great job with our offensive line of building the relationships and getting those guys to go. And I mean, if people saw the way he played last year, I mean, everybody had coronavirus and everybody had tracing and all that kind of stuff. He had an ankle that literally he should have probably never played in some of those games. And he's like, you're not dragging me out of here. I am going to play in every one of these games. And I just saw recently where in the All-Star games, he was one of our 3 players that played in an All-Star game, and everybody has fallen in love with him.
Yeah, I said earlier it's weird not seeing James studying film around the facility. And this upcoming season, it's going to be weird not to have a McGough around here. When's the last year that happened? Was it 13, 2012? I don't know. I was definitely still in college back then. All right, let's wrap it up. Coach Coach, what's up next from here? We're looking forward to spring practices and getting that underway, finalizing some transfers and recruits in that aspect as well. But where does FIU go from here as we move forward to the fall campaign?
Yeah, from the football program inside. Obviously, this is week number 3 in our off-season conditioning program. We've got 8 weeks. Our new defensive staff and our coaches, they're doing all of the preparation for the start of spring practice. I think our first day in spring practice is going to be like March the 15th, I think, and we'll go probably 3 or 4 days a week for about 3 or 4 weeks. Have days in between those so that we can do some installation and continue with the strength and conditioning thing. And then the other thing that we talked about, it's like the NFL. It is free agency, and so we've got one good thing about it, AJ, that I love about this. We got bullets. We got scholarships to be able to be selectively about guys, whether it's a grad transfer, whether it's a portal transfer type of a guy, whether we uncover a high school kid that said, hey, nobody knew about that kid, and now all of a sudden, whether he's a basketball player, runs track, plays football, it gives us a chance to have an opportunity to assign those kids to a scholarship. So, so that part of it, recruiting doesn't change. I mean, it's not like it's over with. I mean, it won't end again until next December, but it gives you a chance to go out there. I'll throw this out so that people that are watching this, think about this. Somewhere in the neighborhood of between 1,200 and maybe 1,500 kids are in the portal. They're out there. There's only like 200 scholarships available. That most of the scholarships that all the Division I, 130 whatever schools they were, almost 90% of those scholarships were used in December. So if you don't have a scholarship, who knows who's coming available through spring practice at other schools, and all of a sudden you go, oh my God, I wish we had a scholarship. We got them. So we got a chance to go after some guys that can make a difference.
Well, Butch, you've been doing this for a while, adapt and evolve with the recruiting game.
And happy birthday to my wife, Tammy, again.
That's what really today is about.
Yeah, that's, well, close. It's close. It's close.
That's well done on the shout out.
Yeah.
Well done. That was important. And
absolutely.
You took the time to do that.
Absolutely. Hopefully the door won't be locked. Yeah.
I know. We'll finish this off so you can get home for the birthday. Coach, appreciate the time.
Congratulations.
Thank you, AJ. On another good class. Well done. Looking forward to the signings to come down the road here in the spring. And looking forward to spring practices as well as the road to the 2021 campaign continues. You've been watching the FIU National Signing Day show brought to you by Cafe Bustelo. Appreciate your time as always. For Butch Davis, I'm AJ Ricketts. Balls up.